Love that new countdown. Much better than the last one. How you doing, Lynn?
I agree.
Yeah.
The last one was very long. This one is much better.
Yeah. The last one was a little nerve-wracking. I had that. I guess we'll be talking about this session. We're going to go through the events, what happened last week, what happens this week, and then maybe just chat about a conversation or two that took place in the community. That's pretty much going to be the format, I think, going forward. So every Monday, we'll just pop in and do this. I was about to mention that on my chat with Estelle Black from MedWorld Advisors, we talked about basically the intermediary's role using a VDR, right? So what data should a first-time seller expect to have to put into a VDR? When are they going to disclose this information? How does the intermediary take all of this data and kind of package it up and use it as a marketing tool to best represent the seller package and to coordinate buyer interest in a timely manner? I know this is our first one of these, so I'm kind of going off script with just hopping right into one of the conversations that I had. But I thought that was really a good example of what we're trying to do with exit prep, because it was just an inside view that you wouldn't get typically of what an intermediary does on behalf of a seller, right? Especially when it comes to coordinating data, but timing it in a way that maximizes buyer interest, right? Packaging, if there are any skeletons in the closet, anything the seller might be worried about, the intermediary comes in and really packages that through an FAQ, right? Frequently asked questions. They prime a potential buyer. So it's not something that comes out you manage the disclosure of this stuff. And Estelle did a really great job of walking through this, because that's what her role is with MedWorld Advisors. She's managing the VDRs for their clients. She's managing all the data and letting all the buyers in on a daily basis. And so she had this intimate firsthand knowledge that you'd never get unless you're speaking with somebody in the trenches. I thought that was the best conversation that I had last week. I know you did some. How about you?
Yeah. Just on the topic of the one you did, I think that one was a really good one. And there's so much value in talking to someone who does that on a day-to-day basis. And I had a lesson last week, and hearing how she organizes it, how she thinks about it, and how she prepares for it was, super, super good and insightful, especially if you don't have very intimate knowledge with how they work and kind of what you can do, what the possibilities are. Super good one.
Especially because it's one of these things where if you're a first-time seller, you don't know what the hell what's a virtual data room, right? And so you get it. It's like, okay, it's a Dropbox, but no, it's something where you're tracking all the buyer activity. You're prioritizing buyers according to who's clicking on what when. When you're setting up a buyer call, you see somebody's clicked on the customer package multiple times, and so you've got to be ready to answer some questions about customer concentration, that kind of thing. When you're speaking with an intermediary who's doing this day in, day out, especially like MedWorld, they're focused on that one niche. They're focused on healthcare. So if you're talking about pulling in the buyers who they might know, like they know what different private equity groups are looking for, and so they might try to package that information in a way that makes sense for the buyers, so they know might be a fit for the deal. It's that kind of thing that gets missed unless you're really talking with multiple intermediaries before you sell your business. And I thought that was really, Estelle, everyone on the MedWorld team, they're so expressive. They're really great with communicating. So it makes for a good video, but just to be able to get that perspective from Estelle, I think that's kind of exactly what we're going for with these exit prep sessions. I thought she did a really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that conversation that you guys had, I think it also kind of provides a foundation for a first-time seller or someone that maybe has done it once or twice but don't know it very well, in terms of what questions you should ask intermediaries when it comes to this, and weeding out who's actually the best one, because the functionality that you talked about was quite in depth, and how that information was modified for the type of buyer, but also in terms of what they've clicked at and looked at is super interesting, and that will be helpful when you're a business owner in a conversation and looking who should I actually go with here.
Yeah, just seeing that as a go-to tool for really herding the sheep, especially if it's a closed auction. If you're only pulling in like 10 buyers on one deal in a timely manner, just doing that in a structured process. It was really interesting hearing that structured process from Estelle in MedWorld. So
yeah,
that was my highlight. And you spoke about quality of earnings. I think you had a good one there.
Yeah, I had a very good conversation with Evan Ottaviano from Bennett Thrasher. I went to that M&A Source conference in Denver a few weeks ago, and they did a morning session on the topic. It was about probably 4 or 5 hours. It was very in-depth and very detailed. They do that on a daily basis. It's a public accounting and consulting firm. So Evan sees people or clients all over the country in all different industries that does this.
Yeah.
So having that conversation with him, similar to Estelle, he just have so much in-depth knowledge. It was a really good conversation. Of course, our session was 20 minutes, I think, so not as in-depth, but still really insightful. I think it's we talked about what is the value of doing a quality of earnings? How should you think about it? We talked about ad backs and what type of ad backs makes sense for different types of buyers, where you have strategics, maybe you have more ad backs than individuals. And sometimes it's the same with private equity groups, depending on what their hypothesis is. If they're doing a bolt-on and they already have operations in a very similar field, then you could do ad backs for marketing, for example. Whereas for an individual buyer, that would be tricky. That probably wouldn't be possible unless there's a very specific case.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big selling point for, M&A Source, for anyone who doesn't know what that is. It's an organization that pretty much focuses on middle market intermediaries and the ancillary players in that space. So they have some good talent, right? If they're sitting down and talking about quality of earnings for 4 hours, you're getting probably too much information on quality of earnings, I think, for the layman. But again, it's one of these niche topics that's so interesting, because the amount of money that you get if you sell your business comes down to what that cash flow number is and what goes into it. And if they're talking about, well, here's your business and your business is the best fit for these types of buyers, and this is why, and these buyers focus on these types of ad backs, so we need to look at this with your business to make sure that we get that number that you want. Like, that's where speaking with an intermediary who knows their stuff, especially a niche intermediary, if they're really involved. I feel like I'm pitching MedWorld, but they're a good example of just a very niche intermediary. They do med tech, they do all things healthcare, but they know that space. If you can get an intermediary who knows their trade but knows their niche really well, it's invaluable, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. It really is, and especially with niche industries, right? Like healthcare, you have a lot of regulations. So in those types of industries, it's even more important to have niche intermediaries. I'd say that Bennett Thrasher, they work with, oftentimes not directly with intermediaries, but they definitely have like a strong referral network, because what they do and going into quality of earnings in depth the way that they do is usually a very specialized knowledge. We all did some case studies, and I can say they were tricky during that.
This was your first M&A Source conference, right?
Yeah, it was. So it was very interesting. I think that their workshop was one of the best ones, I would say. And in the session that we had last week now, we also talked quite a bit about the buyer perspective. Exit prep is sell side perspective, but when it comes to financial preparation and quality of earnings, you do really have to have that buyer perspective, because all of what you're doing is preparing for the buyer. So you need to kind of understand their intent and their interest in order to be able to meet them with.
Yeah, and M&As, mergers and acquisitions. We're trying to focus the community, for the most part, on the sell side, on trying to educate the first-time seller by leveraging expert talent by leveraging expert knowledge. But you've got to understand both sides of the transaction. So we can try to guide the conversation towards the exit, but I think these things just naturally,
they go hand in hand, right? You have to understand both of them, and for some things more than others, or on some topics, of course. Yeah.
But it is interesting because you have like intermediaries and buyers in the community. I mean, they're all active. They don't really care about raising their hand and saying, I'm looking for this kind of deal, or I represent this kind of deal. But with owners who might be thinking about selling on the analytics, we're seeing eyeballs, but we're not seeing people self-identify as owners. And I mean, for obvious reasons, right?
But it's, right?
But we're getting some good engagement, good views on this type of content. So keep it up. I mean, when you're doing a great job, but the intermediaries who are out there engaging and answering, not just intermediaries, the lenders, the lawyers, the buyers, the private equity reps, everyone who we have in this community, they're starting to engage. I think it's really great, and it's truly valuable so far with what we're getting, and hopefully it's valuable in terms of making the match. That's the end goal, is to be able to really have people complete their profiles and put in the keywords and let us know what you're looking for, because we're training users in the community to just drop in the keywords, right? Find the people, find the conversations, find the workshops that make sense for you and your niche, just by putting in keyword SaaS, putting in keyword fintech, manufacturing, whatever. You'll find the professionals or the workshops or the events that are relevant to you and your niche.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's with all the engagement that we do have in the community, it's invaluable, because you have all of these conversations, but then within these conversations, the people that are providing insights are people who are doing that on a day-to-day basis and knows the ins and outs of it. So you're getting so much knowledge by just engaging, asking questions, or by reading and being a member. So and
you and I were talking about before this, just to prompt everyone to DM us in the community if you have something you want to talk about, or if you have something that you really like or something that you hate. Like this thing is growing organically, just like the marketplace with BizNexus. All of our dev tickets are always prioritized based on what people are telling us, right? We're listening to what you guys want in this community. And one thing that I thought was really interesting that I didn't expect leading up to your M&A Source conference, and in my failed attempt at an IBBA and M&A Source trip, the DMs that started happening. So people really started DMing each other and just asking if you're going, where you can meet, that kind of thing. So not necessarily doing a big open post, but finding the people who are relevant and DMing. We saw that activity really tick up leading up to the conferences, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's the value of a community, right? You have direct access to people who could be a great fit or with great knowledge, where you could say, hey, we're going to the same place. Let's have a coffee or a chat for 15 minutes and just meeting up.
Yeah, I had like 20 of these things leading up to it before M&A Source. I was like, I'd never really gotten DMs to that point. And so we'll keep an eye on how people are engaging. We'll let you know as we have these recaps, but we do want to keep these kind of short. What did we want to do? We wanted to actually share the screen, which we haven't. So
yes. And while you do that, before you jump to the next topic, let me just reiterate what Adam said there. So if there's any questions about the community or any topics that you guys find very interesting, just let us know and we'll bring it up and have a conversation about it.
Cool. Yeah, so past events, I've just gone down here to events. We had, ACG Chicago took place, some events outside of the BizNexus community, which we're totally fine with. If you have an event, you want to post it, get in there, do it. We're not trying to keep people on our platform. We're just trying to make the match. Due diligence, that's the one I had with Estelle. I thought that was awesome. If you don't know what a virtual data room is, or if you're thinking of selling a business and you don't really know what value an intermediary brings other than just making a match, like for middle market, you typically want to go niche. You want to have an intermediary, in my opinion. Maybe for some other Main Street deals, you can bypass that, but I'm a big fan of the intermediary in the transaction. This is a live session that really articulates the value that an intermediary can provide in terms of just coordinating buyer interest and using a tool like a VDR to do that. So give it a listen, check it out. We'll probably turn that one into a podcast. ACG all over the place. We're going to ACG. Lynn, we're there next week.
We are, yes, both Tuesday and Wednesday. No, this week actually.
Yep. This week, Tuesday,
Looking
Wednesday.
forward to that.
Yep. Yeah, it's really good. I love it's. Boston has a lot of talent. There's a lot of brain power in Boston, so it's always interesting going to these types of events when they're just smack in the middle of that kind of that talent. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And it's just good to be back in person too. You know?
It is, and it's nice that we get to go to one here in Boston where we're both based, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. Quality of earnings, you liked that. That was good. We're gonna have him back on. And so these things you'll see when we have people actually registering for it in real time, we're seeing a lot of views after the fact, right? In the community, we're seeing a lot of engagement, really 2 o'clock onward. We're seeing people digging into the community. So a lot of these things I think are getting watched after the fact, which is totally fine. But if you are attending this in real time, just know that for most of them, you have to register as yes, and then you'll see the link, and then you can click the link and go through. If it's a live session, that might kick you over to our LinkedIn page, or it might be a live session directly in the community. And one way or another, that's going to be right there on the deal. So here, you'll see this is a YouTube link, and if you kick out to that, you're going to actually get the live session that we're talking about here with our new countdown loader. So that's that. And I did the deal origination lunch and learn. We're doing that every Wednesday. I think this Wednesday I'll probably take a pause just because I've got some other stuff going on personally. But the lunch and learn is always done in the community. So we've been fine tuning that. So we haven't been sending out the official heads up, but we'll start doing that once we feel like we're in our rhythm. But that went really well. We went through, for the most part, just the new functionality on the BizNexus marketplace. And this is never a sales pitch. We're really just trying to take one tip or tactic that we've been using for deal origination with BizNexus Concierge that we think is working well, and just want to share that. It's just a space that is changing so rapidly. We kind of want to make sure we're sharing those nuggets on a regular basis, and it allows us to really puts the pressure on for us to kind of stay on the front edge and share something that's relevant, that's actually valuable. But
to be fair, also you do have quite a few people that come to these events and come on a regular basis as well.
Yeah, we do. I was surprised because we didn't announce anything for that, but when you go live in the community, it broadcasts it to everybody, so people started showing up, and I think we wound up with definitely more than I expected. Lunch and learns were really, really hot. We started that in the beginning of the pandemic, and that went strong right through to the point where everyone just maxed out on Zoom fatigue. And so we decided to pull that, and we took a break. I took a break because I maxed out as well. But now we're really kicking it back up, and it's a fun platform to do this on because you do have that real-time engagement. So now in terms of steering this thing as it goes, this live session that's done every week, it's a much more effective tool. I like Zoom, it's fine, but it's a webinar. It's passive learning. For me, I like the active collaboration. This accomplishes that. So let's just briefly look at upcoming events. So we are actually filming this on Friday, but we're pretending that it's Monday. This is going to show on Monday. So let's look at what's coming up. This is what we're technically doing right now. Then we've got AWA, virtual mergers and acquisitions. We have these deals. So if you get behind the bundle, I should mention a lot of the content in here is behind this paywall. So $9.97 a year. You're getting access to all of these workshops and collaboration sessions for deal origination, essentially. So if you want to learn more about setting up your proprietary deal origination funnel, we've got the workshops and the groups. Basically, we're talking for the most part about automations and pipe drive CRM, but then the weapons that we really like at the top of the funnel for outreach, whether that's LinkedIn or cold email or snail mail, phone. And so we've got a lot of sales and marketing tactics in these workshops applied to M&A. That's all we do with BizNexus Concierge, and that's really what we've put in. So it's kind of self-guided learning, and we get you and one of your admins in there so that you can set up your funnel. And that's what we're chatting about day in, day out with that stuff. And so go ahead, please.
Yeah, let me just add there. So it does say pilot. So that $9.97 is actually an early bird price. So that price will increase as we build this out more and more. There's already a lot of valuable content in there, but since we're doing a lot of this, we're building it out.
Yeah, my team's on me. I've been giving away too much crap for free. So I guess, yes, $9.97. And I think when I come back, I'm taking a bit of the month off just because my wife and I are having a baby. But then when I'm back full time midsummer, that's really when we're going to be super engaged with this. That's when that pricing will jump up. That's not a sell. That is what's happening. That's in the roadmap. So, but you can get in there right now. You get access to the marketplace and these workshops if you're in there on the early bird special, and it's been fun. I really like the collaboration. I enjoy that. So the point we're making there is that some of these events that you see here, you might not see when you're in the community. This stuff is all just behind the paywall. So when you see an event and it's got like this group with a star or a masterclass with a star, that's because you're a member of it. So you're going to see a lot more stuff when you get behind that paywall. But we've got those events coming up. Lunch and Learn I'll probably cancel. Lower middle market update. And Lynn, are you on anything this coming week? I know we've got 2 days with the ACG, so that kind of puts a dent in our live schedule.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've got a few chats, but nothing that's going up live. It's ACG are the main ones. 2 full days there.
All right. Well, maybe I should actually just briefly show exit prep. So exit prep, guys, this is we're really just trying to educate the first-time seller about what goes into the selling process and help connect the seller to all of the experts who can help them, right? There's really no catch there. So if you're an intermediary or an accountant or a lawyer, a financial advisor, if you're working in this world that we're in with M&A, if you're some sort of niche consultant and you're helping people get to the point where they're ready to sell or get their business, and like, you are the type of expert that might want to do a live session with Lynn or myself or someone else on the team. We break it down into categories, right? Business valuation, building your deals team, building the marketing story of your company, getting the owner to actually define their goals and options, right? So like what we were talking about earlier, the conversation that I had with Estelle, where they, are taking a seller and they're saying, well, who are the best potential buyers of your business and what do they want to see? And let's make sure that we're highlighting that information, getting owners to start thinking that way. And quite frankly, engage with intermediaries and the experts that they should be engaging with much sooner in the process, right? It's my personal belief that so many of these companies just die on the vine because they're not doing that, right? If they're engaging 5 years out instead of doing it, it's the peak of the market and things are changing, maybe I should sell my business. That's what we're trying to really drill in here. So I think it is something that helps all sides. So if you want to engage.
Yeah, both that and we're also highlighting how you can enhance the value so that if you have a timeline where you have time to fix things, what are the things that you can do to enhance your value when you're actually going through an exit? So a lot of those topics or sessions that you see there also highlights these things with professionals. So it would be how can you enhance the value from an accounting standpoint, and then we'll have a 15-20 minute session with an accountant in specific about that.
Yeah, and it's just an opportunity for owners to go through and learn and connect along the way, and for advisors to get your brand out there, right? If you're qualified, if you are focused on a specific niche and you actually have bona fides in that space, reach out to us. DM Lynn, DM me if you want to contribute to any one of these topics in this exit prep bundle. Check it out. We'll find a time. We'll set you up on a session just like this, and then we'll go through it and we'll give you the hard copy of the video so you can use the marketing for your own purposes. There's really no catch there. So, yeah. Did I miss anything, Lynn? Or I think we're...
No, I don't think you've done it. No, you haven't. We're actually up at 25 minutes, so this is longer than expected. But we did have some really interesting discussions during this week that I would like to highlight. There's one which is about narrowing down when it comes to best fits for different types of acquirers, where we have both VPN Sing, we have MedWorld that are talking about this. We have SPAC as a viable exit option with some insightful comments there. We have one discussion about private equity and the M&A activity going forward with cost of capital, and talking about add-ons versus bolt-ons going forward. So yeah, some very interesting discussions.
Yeah, it is. It's super interesting. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, because I'm asking the questions, but I love that the discussion that kicks up. Something like the private equity for us. I mean, this is it's just so relevant, right? This is what I'm living day to day with the platform. The majority of the activity that happens on the BizNexus marketplace is like private equity looking for bolt-ons, right? Those are the types of deals for the most part that are on the marketplace. And so when you're like, I'm selfishly asking a question like this, I'm like, how long is this going to go? Do we need to prepare for this thing to slow down? But there's so much money on the sidelines in the form of committed capital with private equity groups, and then these companies that have just a ton of cash on the books, and they're looking at acquisitions. I don't think that activity slows down if the market changes. So I'm crossing my fingers, because that would be bad for me if it does. Bad for all of us, I guess. But asking questions like this and getting the answers from the people who have their finger on the pulse right now, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it. Yeah,
it is.
Cool. All right, well, let's leave it at that. Guess I need to do one of these fancy outro videos now.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right, we'll do the outro.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Lynn, we'll do this. We're going to do this every Monday. We're just going to do a quick recap of kind of what was hot the week before, what's coming up, and then what interesting discussions, and we'll try to keep it under 20 minutes. I think for a first at bat, this was good, Lynn. I don't think we went too far off track.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was great.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. See you next time.
Thank you. Yes.